It's the Eagle Community Television Forum with your host, Gary Shorman.
Hi everyone, I'm Gary Shorman, and this is a forum on Eagle Community Television. The forum's brought to you by Hayes Med. Our guest today is a special guy in our community. He does a lot of different things, and one of those things is dealing with students and selecting students for the Hansen Scholarship Foundation. Our guest, Gary Hulett, and good to have you on our program today.
Nice to be here.
Now, you do so many different things. We're going to talk about some of those. But tell us a little bit about your experience in Hayes, where you've been and what you've done in Hayes. And then we're going to talk about the Scholarship Foundation at Hansen.
Well, I've lived in Hayes almost all my life. I grew up in Osborne, went to Fort Hayes as an undergrad, and got my bachelor's and master's degree at Fort Hayes. And then we moved to Canada, and I got my PhD at the University of Saskatchewan in Canada. And then I was on the faculty at the University of North Dakota for a while, and then moved back to Hayes, and then we moved to Australia for a year, and then we moved back to Hayes. I've been around a lot.
Well, you and I were talking before, and the last time we talked on the show, you were talking about climbing Mount Kilimanjaro and
right.
what it takes to do that, and you're off on another adventure here in a few weeks, and we'll talk about that. But you have been doing something that is when I looked at the numbers, I was really surprised that you have interviewed 2,800 students
right.
as part of the Hansen Scholarship Foundation. How did you get connected with Hansen?
It was through Jerry Tomanek, President Tomanek. He called me one day and said that they were looking for somebody to be on the scholarship committee, and he wondered if I would want to do it. And the first thing I asked him was whether it was much work. And he said, no, it's not bad.
Nothing at all.
Yeah, right. He was wrong about that. And then I was appointed by the Board of Trustees and served on the committee for 13 years.
Well, you mentioned earlier it's kind of a full-time job to some extent.
It is. From September through February, it's pretty busy, yeah.
2,800 kids over those 13 years. You divide that out, that's a lot of students every year to interview. What have you found over the course of the last 13 years if you've interviewed those students?
Well, I'm impressed with the quality of the students. We hear a lot about young people not being very work brittle, but these kids they're outstanding. They are the cream of the crop, though. I mean, they're from 26 counties in northwest Kansas, and they have to take tests to qualify for the scholarship, but they're fluent, they're intelligent, they're service-oriented, they're just great kids. And that was the best thing about serving on the committee, was interviewing the kids and kind of recharging my batteries, because it's easy when you get old to become kind of cynical about young people, and that helped me get through that problem.
Well, when you see that, that not only is it an interview process, but if you're selected, there's some really great scholarships that go along that the Hansen Foundation produces, and you're the selection committee that makes that happen. Tell us a little bit about what happens once you select someone.
Well, the process begins in September. We give them there are 5 testing sites across northwest Kansas: Salina, Concordia, Hayes, Logan, and Colby. And they take an objective test that consists of science, mathematics, social studies, arts and humanities, and something else. I can't remember what it is offhand. And then they write 2 essays on site. And we evaluate those. We have to read all those essays, and there are about almost 500 kids take the test. And then we narrow the selection down based on those scores to about 180 or 190 that we interview. There's never been a Hansen scholarship given to anybody who hasn't been interviewed.
So you have to go through that process.
You have to go through the interview too.
What kind of questions do you ask?
Oh, we ask them.
No, not everybody, but some people ask, you get certain lines of questions. With your background being in a couple different countries, what do you ask?
I ask them questions like, do you think people should be required to buy health insurance?
And let them think about it and answer.
And they sometimes say, no, I don't think so. And I say, why not? And they say, well, they should not have to buy it if they don't have any money. And I said, well, what if the government helps them? No, they still don't think so. And I said, well, if they injure themselves, should we treat them? And they hadn't really thought about that. They hadn't thought about that.
So let me ask, is the process, I mean, part of the questions you're asking is that common sense, think through a problem, solve, find an answer kind of question.
Yeah.
Are most of the scholars that go
Well,
through
we
this?
know a lot about them when we interview them. We have their resume, we have their transcript, we have letters of reference from counselors and teachers, and we have their autobiography in which they describe their life and their dreams and their aspiration. So we know a lot about them. What the interview is to try to ferret out, do they have common sense? Can they think on their feet? Are they fluent? Do they have any general knowledge of the world around them? We might ask them, what are your thoughts on immigration policy of America? We try to ask them questions that are open-ended so that they can't just say yes or no. So
Now, how many people are on the committee?
There are four of us on the committee. Delbert Stanton from here in town, and Joyce Mahin, who also lives in Hayes, and Glennis Doan from Downs, from the Downs area.
Well, I know you've been after 13 years. You're going to be stepping down at this. Over 13 years, you have to gain a lot of respect, too, for the Hansen Foundation for actually putting this in place and the number of kids that it has helped.
Yeah.
What are the dollar amounts of the Hansen scholarships?
The top scholarship, of which there are 10, the stipend was just raised on that last year, I believe it was. It's $10,000, renewable for 4 years.
So it's a $40,000.
It's a $40,000 scholarship, and there are 10 of those. And then we have 50 scholarships that are $6,500, renewable for 1 year. So that's another $13,000 for 2 years. And then we have 100 scholarships that are $4,000, renewable for 1 year. So that's another $8,000. And then we have 100 career and technical education scholarships for kids who want to become plumbers or auto body repairmen or cosmetologists or dental hygienists. And those are $4,000 renewable for 1 year. So when you total it all up, each year they award about $1.3 million in scholarships. And then the next year, they award another batch, and then they have to also cover the renewals. So it's a lot of money.
Oh, it's a lot of money. You add that up, and also it's a lot of kids. When you add up, I'm just adding numbers in my head. I came up to close to 260.
260, that's what it
kids,
is.
That's right.
260
that are in there, and so you put those kids into the system, and they get a chance. Now, a lot of them go to Fort Hays. Is there a direction that they have to go from a school?
They have to go to college in Kansas, public or private. They can go to a community college, or they can go to Tabor or Friends or Fort Hays or Pittsburgh or K-State or KU, any of those schools. We have a lot of them. Since the service area is northwest Kansas, 26 counties, we have a lot of them that go to K-State. They like K-State. But we have increasing numbers coming to Fort Hays, and when you ask them why, they say, well, the programs are good and it's cheaper, you know,
you can afford
which we know.
Afford and make your way through school and not have a big debt at the end.
Yeah.
What's the follow-up on these kids? When you look at doing this, you've been doing it 13 years, and so if you take 250 times 13 years, you're about, there's a bunch of kids out there.
A lot of kids.
A lot of kids out there.
Yeah.
And so, do you ever follow up? Do you ever hear back from some of these kids?
The top scholarship winners, the leaders.
Top 10.
The top 10. They have to provide us a progress letter each year to get their scholarship renewed. They have to meet certain grade requirements, but they have to tell us, what have you been doing? And when I read those, I'm just amazed. I mean, some of them are working as interns with Google, and some of them are overseas in Germany studying. They're just incredible. It's just incredible. So,
well, I love that part of this, the whole Hansen Scholarship, and any scholarship program, but this one is special because, one, the dollars that are put into that,
Yeah.
and the criteria and the testing that goes in to get the brightest kids and those that have what I would consider energy to go get the job done.
Yeah, they do.
I mean, because
Yeah.
you don't go through that whole process
Yeah.
if you're lazy. You don't go through that whole process if you're not willing to put in the effort
That's true.
to make that happen. Either that, they have good parents that are making them do
Yeah.
that. Is there a success rate at the end that you know of, number of kids that have?
We're trying. We have started to try to get a handle on that, to kind of figure out what the retention rate is in Kansas, because we've been concerned, and I think the board probably has been concerned that we educate these kids and then they move to Chicago or Los Angeles or Berlin or somewhere. A lot of them return to Kansas, and almost all of them want to return to Kansas. They want to return to places like Oberlin and Norton and Hayes and Downs and various other small towns that they've grown up in. The problem, of course, is jobs.
Finding the right kind of job
Yeah.
for that kind
For
of
that-
once you get through.
Yeah,
and
right.
You'd like to think that there's a Google located in western Kansas, but
Yeah,
Google
yeah.
offices are in California and New York. And so
One of the best things, and it's just taking fruition right now, we've had students come through who want to have a business. They're entrepreneurial. And we mentioned that to the board and said, we'd like to give a scholarship for entrepreneur type kids. And, but we couldn't figure out how to do it. But the board, they took that idea and ran with it, and they're building that entrepreneurial scholarship hall down at Fort Hayes right now.
They took your idea
They
for
took
that.
the idea and ran with it, which was great.
Well, I love the way you started when you talked about the kids and the way that they're coming in and you're invigorated by
Oh, yeah.
the kids that you're
Yeah,
interviewing.
yeah,
And the fact that they're bright, they're out there, they're wanting to do things. And I think that's good to see as well when you see a generation of business owners that will be going away at some point to
Right.
see who those
Right.
new youngsters are that are coming in, going through school and creating and building their own business.
We have a few that have businesses right now. We've interviewed some really interesting kids, but one of the best groups was three brothers from down around Salina. I don't know whether they were at southeast of Saline or El Saline or one of the Salina schools, but they were the Peterson brothers.
They have some hit music out, right?
The farm video kids. I mean, they're just great. And we've had kids who have pig farms and kids who have cattle herds and some of them that operate lawn mowing businesses and snow cone businesses in their town, and that's good. It's good.
Well, that's great, and I know it's going to be a loss going off the committee for you because of the background that that committee has for being able to do this, and
Yeah,
I'm sure they'll find somebody. It's going to be hard because you have kind of a unique ability to travel around the world. We're going to take a break and come back and talk about your next trip that's
Okay,
coming up.
fine.
And what you're doing there kind of maybe in the next chapter. Gary Hulett has been our guest here. First half of the program. We'll be back with more after this from Hayes Med.
It's a beautiful day in our super high-speed internet great customer service neighborhood. Like you, this is where we live. In fact, our company is employee-owned, so it's our goal to improve the quality of life for everyone in our community by delivering faster, more reliable internet, clearer, more feature-laden phone service, quality TV channels, all with the level of customer service you'd expect from people who are your neighbors. Eagle Communications. Our community connected.
Welcome back to the second half of our Forum program here on Eagle Community Television. Good to have you watching. Our program is brought to you by Hayes Med, and we have great shows like this on every week. If you have a suggestion, a comment, an idea, be sure and let me know. Gary.Shorman@eaglecom.net is my email. You can also go on Facebook if you're there and type in ECTV Forum. You'll find us under ECTV Forum. And of course, we're also on Hayes Post. You can click down on the TV shows over there and you'll find some of our past shows as well. Our guest is Dr. Gary Hulett, who is formerly with Fort Hays State University, but you're also part of the selection committee for the Hansen Foundation Scholarship Committee. We've been talking about the program, what it did, and really the neat kids that you've had a chance to interview. And during the break, we were talking about you've had a few just very unusual interviews.
Yeah, I thought about two girls. One girl who wanted to be an opera singer.
Really?
From Northwest Kansas. And so I asked her if she would sing something for us. And I said, it has to be short and not too loud. And she composed herself and stood up and sang a brief aria in Italian.
And you're sitting there going...
And we were sitting there thinking, wow. And she actually went off to a conservatory somewhere eventually and was singing.
Now,
So
did she get a scholarship?
She got a scholarship, right.
Okay. Okay, what about the other girl?
The other girl was one, we quite often ask them, tell us something unique about yourself so we'll remember you. Because if you're interviewing hundreds of kids, it's hard to keep them straight. And she said, well, yesterday I had pink hair. And her hair was dark. And she said, my mother said, you are not going to an interview with pink hair. So she had to change it overnight. And then the third one was
Did she get a scholarship?
She got a scholarship too. The third one was a guy, and we asked him the same question. Tell us something unique about yourself, or do you have any questions for us? And he thought for a moment, and he said, well, I have one question. Why are we here? And Delbert Stanton, one of the committee members, said, well, we're interviewing for the scholarships. And the kid looked at him and said, no, I mean, why are we here?
The real question.
The real question, the big question. So,
I bet Delbert could help with that.
yeah,
wouldn't he?
Delbert could help with that. That was a fun one. But we had some great ones. Yeah.
If somebody is interested in this, you can go to the Hansen Foundation, I'm sure, and find some information. Is there
They have a
help that
website.
okay.
They have a website. Just Google Dane G. Hansen Foundation. It's a great website. Tells you about all of the foundation's operations. The museum at Logan, the grants process, which the Board of Trustees runs, and then the scholarship program. It's very detailed, user-friendly. It's a great website.
Well, it sounds like, and if you have somebody, maybe a grandchild, a son or daughter that has interest in going on, it'd be a great program to get them started in early to figure out what you need to do, because it's not an easy process, but it's a very rewarding
Well, and they
process.
have to qualify, particularly for the academic scholarships. They have to have a 3.5 GPA in high school, and they have to have at least a 21 ACT score, which is about the Kansas average ACT score.
So you have to be in the upper half or close to that, and which isn't, it's a good bar. You got to be there, but it is not impossible to get to that level.
We looked at the average ACT scores for the kids we interviewed a couple of years ago, and the average ACT was 29, and it only goes to 36, and we've had a few 36s, which is the perfect score on the ACT.
You know, when you put your time in on a project, I found this in my case, and I hear that in your stories that you're telling, it's as rewarding for you.
Oh yeah, it is.
As it is for those students that are going through. Yeah. What's your next chapter going to be like? Now that you're retiring from this, I heard early on we were talking about Chile. What's going to Chile? What are you doing?
Well, I'm going to Chile in about 3 weeks.
So you're not sitting around on the porch in your rocking chair doing nothing?
My wife and I are going, along with 4 other people, and we're going with as a part of a team from CARL, K-A-R-L, the Kansas Agricultural Rural Leadership Program, which is based out of K-State.
And that's an annual program that they travel around the state.
Yeah, it's like Leadership Kansas, only it's for ag and rural leaders as opposed to more general leadership. And we're going down there on a planning program to, they take a class down there in 2017, and we're going down to kind of scope out what that class ought to do. So
what do you think you're going to find?
Well, I've been there before. I've been in Chile before, so I don't know. They have lots of nice wine.
And I assume there's going to be some ag operations in
we're going to visit
right?
some farms. We're going to meet with the education people as well.
You know, in today's world, I know every year CARL tries to take a group outside the country. You'd mentioned that. And if they do that, today's world almost requires that, because we're not very good at just dealing with our own country. We have to be able to communicate across the border.
It's absolutely essential. I mean, I've traveled all over the world, and I don't regret it a bit. I don't regret it, because it gives you a different view of your own country, and it gives you a different view of the world, the cultures that are in it. So I think it's really important, yeah.
Well, you and
from a business standpoint, it's essential, because exporting and importing products from various cultures, we have to do that.
When you get back, we'll have to have another show and talk about what it's like down in Chile, because when we talked about Kilimanjaro, kind of got me excited. So we'll have to do, after the program, do a little bit of follow-up and see what training needs to happen for that one.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us.
I enjoyed it.
Dr. Gary Hulett has been our guest here on the Forum program, part of the Hansen Scholarship Selection Committee, part of the Hansen Foundation. Thanks for watching the Forum. It's brought to you by Hayes Med and by Eagle Communications, our community connected.
Hayes Med is your first and best choice for healthcare. They're the only facility providing tertiary level services in this region. With more than 70 physicians and 26 specialties ranging from heart, orthopedic, spine care, cancer, obstetrics and gynecology, wound care, rehabilitation and surgery, including the Da Vinci robotic surgery, Hayes Med is your comprehensive health provider for people throughout Western Kansas. Hayes Med, helping people be healthy.